Hey, it's Amethyst Virgo, back with another Astrology Explains It All. As you can see from the title, we'll be talking about a bunch of different individuals. Timestamps are also provided for those who want to go to certain people. As a reminder, when I do these are about the best astrological patterns I can find, so it's not about endorsing someone or anything like that, but at the same time, you will notice that some of the people that I do choose are sometimes in the headlines for some reason or another. This one is a little bit male heavy. There's a lot of male energy in this one. I do talk about two famous Taurus women in this and some current events, but just wanted to put that out there. But again, it is about the best story, the best astrological patterns, so hopefully you learn something from this. Jeff Bezos. So he's a billionaire, and in fact, he actually, during the pandemic, he accumulated even more. He accumulated even more money. So it's ironic to see this, but this is his mindset, right? So he said it's actually, when someone asked him in particular, so this cuts off an article, but it starts off with someone asking him about work-life balance. As we know, a lot of us, especially people in the millennial, Gen Z age range, work-life balance is more of a theme, more of a concept, more of something we have been asking for and trying to figure out in our own lives, right? So it's actually a circle, Bezos said. It's not a balance. This work-life harmony thing is what I try to teach young employees and actually senior executives at Amazon too, Bezos said, but especially the people coming in. I get asked about work-life balance all the time, and my view is that it's a debilitating phrase because it implies there's a strict trade-off. Okay? Bezos said he didn't compartmentalize his career and his personal life. So you can read the article if you would like. I might link it if I have time. But anyway, he's basically like, look, I didn't do that. I would go into my job, do what I need to do. Like, you know, and I thought to myself when I was reading this, I'm like, oh, he's got a really intense view on work. That's earthy. And we go to his chart, and he's a Capricorn. Not only is he a Capricorn, he has a Capricorn stellium. Okay, now again, his Mercury is a little far apart between his Sun and his Mars. His Sun and his Mars make that direct conjunct. But his Sun conjunct Mars, obviously there's going to be, he views his work as an extension of him, and what he does is a part of himself and his traits and his work ethic, right? And again, even though people can be like, well, wait a minute, yeah, he's a billionaire. He doesn't have to really work anymore. He doesn't, right? He stepped down from Amazon. He has a trajectory like everybody. He has a story, where he went to college. He has that degree in engineering, I believe, electrical engineering, computer science. He worked on Wall Street, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, even if he did have connections or whatever, I don't know. But he has a story just like everyone else, right? He did not start off as the billionaire. So even though he is now, he does have a story. And so even when people are filthy rich, some people come into money, and some people it's actually just a manifestation of them knowing the right people or being in certain situations. But at the same time, in many ways, everybody has an origin story, right? So let's get into this. So his parents, it doesn't look like were very well off when he was born. Like his parents even divorced. So Bezos does have a story of having to deal with different things in his upbringing, just like many other people, right? But with this case, he has a Capricorn work ethic. So no matter what happened in his life, he probably was going to endure anyway, right? But Capricorn sometimes can put the goal ahead of everything else. And so what sometimes can happen is if a person is so immersed in that mindset, they don't understand that other people need to take that break. Capricorn might not even understand sometimes that it needs to take a break. And his work ethic is also Uranus and Virgo. Bezos probably spent a lot of time doing very, a lot of time like really getting granular with the work that he was doing. As we know, with any Aquarian energy, as we can see here, he has Venus and Saturn in Aquarius. Aquarius is associated with technology, just like Uranus is the ruler of technology, but Aquarius people, or people with Aquarius energy, sometimes like tech stuff. They like, sci-fi, or Aquarius energy can like some more of the gaming type of stuff or internet stuff, right? That's Aquarian energy. But him and Uranus and Virgo also can represent, remember, Virgo is the work ethic, that kind of strangeness in terms of his work ethic. He might have been a person who loved getting up early and doing all the work. He might have been a person who stayed up all night doing it. Like, some people get really into that, into their work. And I do think that can tend to be a Virgoan thing. He has Uranus and Pluto in Virgo. I know with Virgo, we can get really into certain things. Now, he's not a Virgo, but Virgo likes the minute, figuring things out type of thing. And when you have such an intense planet like Pluto there, maybe you can get that type of energy. He does have them in retrograde, which is very interesting, about his trajectory into learning his work style, probably learning how to, he wanted to, build basically an enterprise, right? So I don't want to take that part away, because there is some elements in his chart which show, like, even this moon in Sag being very forward thinking. Now again, we right now know, though, there's been a lot of controversy around how people are treated at Amazon in particular. Now again, I'm not endorsing, I'm not here to say this isn't, but that is just the factual truth of it. And so when you have a Capricorn stellium, and when you have Uranus and Pluto and Virgo, you can have very dominating or unorthodox views on how people should work. And Moon and Sag is already so into it, when they have an idea, they have to jump in. So he might be imposing his own work style and work ethic on other people, especially if people were claiming they were not happy, right? They were not happy about their hours or their workers' rights and things like that. But Capricorn, sometimes energy can be a bit dominating in that regard, right? Not only that, his Mars at the 29th degree, it's almost Aquarius. So we're also dealing with, look how close that is, right? That's about to turn into Aquarius. Because of that, there also can be Mars and Aquarius, some strange ideas around work ethic. Things that other people, there's really not a lot in his chart showing he knows how do I say this? Again, I don't know the man, I could be wrong, but authentically connect with people, really. He knows how to lead people with that Aquarius energy. Saturn in Aquarius, that's strong energy. He knows how to lead people. He knows to get people grouped together and lead them and manage them. But I don't see any Libra energy. I don't see any, he has North Node in Cancer, but that's something he's striving towards. Bezos could be living a little too much in his South Node in Capricorn, to be honest with you. He does have Chiron in Pisces, but again, he has to learn that empathy. He has to kind of break through with that empathy. And again, I don't know him enough to know if he has or hasn't. We just know what he's done within his work. And again, like I said, I don't want to take away from him having good ideas, because his chart shows he's probably really good at knowing the goal, managing things, managing people, having really unorthodox ideas and ways of doing things. But sometimes things can be so strange where it doesn't relate to other people. So that's the thing I always say with Aquarius energy. Don't be so out of the box that you can't get the people to come along with you. So this is just interesting seeing his chart. He does have children. He was married. He divorced his wife. And he has a partner. Now I forgot the woman's name. He's with someone right now. North Node in Cancer, I don't know much about his family life to know if he is meeting his North Node. But again, some of the stuff I've heard, it sounds like he was living a lot in his South Node in Capricorn, which is about work and goals and tangible results. But also Cancer energy is about also calming down and also understanding emotional intelligence. He is about to go into his second Saturn return in March of 2022. He has Saturn at the 21st degree. So Saturn is not at that degree yet, but he is starting to feel some of these things. He recently, he recently did something, went on a spaceship or something. So, he's coming up, he's 57, okay. Let me see, let me just check this real quick. What did Bezos do? Blast into space or something. Yeah, he's kind of coming into that, like, typically midlife crisis stuff comes before this age, I would think, like maybe like late 40s and things like that. And he's 57, but he is trying to rediscover himself. He's doing, he's changing up his life a lot, in which you guys might have noticed, even with like the divorce from his wife that he's been with for a long time, and with this other woman, all these different things are happening right now. It all kind of is all like a formal line happening at one time. But he is going to go through a second Saturn return. And also with Jupiter and Aries, most people, Jupiter and Aries, are going to in some way stand out on their own accord and have a lot of luck with that, which he clearly has. Now, what I will say about Mars and Virgo, then I'm going to go into some other people. Let me jump into this one, actually. Well, I noticed some things, and this is why I always tell people, introverts, extroverts, whatever you are, get out there and well, it's kind of hard to get out there now because, like, there's a lot of growing rates of COVID and things of that nature. But what I mean is, like, observe your surroundings. When you are somewhere, observe your surroundings. That doesn't mean sometimes you can't enjoy things, but you're going to notice some situations. Observe people. Don't just sit, you know, I love books. I love reading. I can do it all day. But a lot of times when people get into astrology, they get so much in the weeds of things that they forget to actually just live and look around and see and observe. And then you'll also get some insights. So transits can hit everybody. Transits will hit everybody. So even if you don't have Mars and Virgo in your natal chart, it is in your transit chart somewhere, right? Now, what can sometimes happen is if a person doesn't naturally have an energy inside of them, it can come about in strange ways. The energy is kind of off a little bit because the energy is not really within the person, but they have to interact with it, right? People may abuse or misuse this energy. And this is not just about Mars and Virgo, but what I've noticed about Mars and Virgo. So I don't have Mars and Virgo, but I'm a Virgo sun and Virgo rising. So my Virgo energy, I understand Virgo energy very well. And I also have a 6th house placement. So some of you who have 6th house placements might also resonate with Virgo energy. If you have a midheaven in Virgo, you might as well. Now, my observations during this transit were there were a couple things that have happened where other people were trying to use Virgo energy against me, but it didn't work. Meaning they were trying to overpower utilizing their analysis of something. And I'm, you know, when you're the true Virgo, you already done thought everything through your mind. You done crossed every dot, every T. And again, I'm like, wait a minute. So like, let me give an example. So I'm at Target last week. I bought a few items. I'm scanning it, my self-checkout. There's a woman. She's really nice. I've talked to her before, but she's the self-checkout lady. Like, she stands there in case anyone needs help. So she was kind of near, I guess, the machine I was at. I'm scanning my stuff. And then she goes, oh, can you scan that again? I didn't hear that go beep. And in my Virgo head, I'm like, I'm not saying I don't make mistakes. That's not what I'm saying. But when I'm very aware of what I'm doing when I'm in public. And I'm very aware because I'm the type person, like, I'm the type person scared if I don't scan something in, because I don't want to ever be, taking something, or I don't want to be, scamming or anything like that. So I was like, in my head, I'm like, I know I scanned this. And so I scan it, and of course it pops back up, and she sees it twice. Like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I knew, right? Like, and I was just like, okay, like I wasn't mean to her, but I was kind of like, oh, okay. Like I didn't, because no, it's like, you're basically trying to say I'm trying to take this $8 item. I don't need to steal from anybody, and I'm not going to go into details about, that, and I wouldn't say that to anybody trying to make them, feel bad about it. I'm like, I don't need to take anything. Like, I could buy a bunch of these if I needed to. The point being is, like, people, and this was not the first thing that happened. There were other situations that happened here and there where I noticed people misusing Virgo energy. They were trying to do a gotcha, but it really wasn't fine. Like, if you don't fully have Virgo energy within you, and you're affected by the transit, and you're trying to do that, sometimes it can come about, like I said, very strange ways, and where people are misusing accuracy. Remember, Mars is dominance, so you will get people trying to misuse Virgo energy to dominate over you. I don't think this woman meant any harm. She's a nice woman. She might have really just thought she didn't hear it, but that's just an example. Now, it can be ineffective without proper energy direction of Virgo. I am not saying you have to be a Virgo to use Virgo energy. I might need to use Aries energy sometimes, and I'm not an Aries. I have nothing Aries in my chart except, I think, a random asteroid. Okay, Aries is on the cusp of a house, and that's it. Okay, but I know how to use it. People who are into astrology and spiritual, we know how to use energy that we might not naturally possess, right? But what I would say is, it's like a person who doesn't speak French convinced because they have a book that they can read French, and you're like, no, you don't know French, but they're like, no, like that. But that's the internet, and that's people nowadays anyway, where people think because they have access to something that they understand something. So you might notice a lot of people making mistakes, even though it's Virgo season, because Mars is Mars is hasty. People are going to try to make analysis without doing the process and the work. Now, what you will also see with this Mars in Virgo, and wait till we get that Sun in Virgo at the end of the month, more and more health mandates you will probably see in terms of COVID rates increasing. Virgo rules paperwork and organization of materials. Gemini rules the passing of the information, the verbal of the information. But when we come to organizing things, and when it comes to actually documenting the things, the vaccination card, Gemini would rule the communication to something. So you getting a notice from your job that you have to get a vaccination, or Gemini. Virgo is ruling the organization, the connecting the dots. Did this person get this? The actual storage and analysis of what's going on, right? The vaccination card is a record, right? And so that's another example there. So if you want to go big picture, Mercury is ruling this energy. Mercury's in Virgo right now. Virgo energy trying to resolve something. Okay, that's the whole nature of Virgo energy at its best. It's trying to resolve, fix, refine. But Mars is dominance and power, right? So Mars doesn't naturally flow all that much in Virgo. Remember, Virgo is service and healthcare. So that's another component that sometimes people forget when they're talking about Virgo energy. This concept of health, this caring of health, this care of preventative health, this care of responding to health is very Virgoan. Now, Mercury in Virgo is conjunct Mars in Virgo. In the United States, it's in the 9th house. Think about expansion, widespread direction. I'm telling you what to do and how to do it for your own benefit so that we can get better. That is the energy of that. Now, again, you can have whatever opinions you want to have about this situation. Again, my channel is not to debate these things. There are other venues where you can go and debate these concepts, but this is this astrology of what's happening at the moment. All right, so I wanted to talk about two women who happen to be Taurus women, but I think are really good examples of the ability for Taurus to build up its empire or build up what it has. And I know a lot of times when people talk about success, they automatically want to talk about Leo or Capricorn. But we also have to give praise to the fact that all signs can be successful, but their methodology of how to do it is just going to be different. That's it. Right? Some signs care more about the visible success and some people care more about the internal success. So that's a whole different story. But what stood out to me was, one, I've always known Kandi was a Taurus. And like, if anyone's watched her career, from the Escape days to her solo days to producing to Real Housewives to producing, she's done some TV production and film production. She has a restaurant. It's like Kandi has a lot going on, right? I think that's also her Mercury and Gemini nature at the first degree as well. Like, when she has an idea, that's a good example of how signs can work together even if they're different. She has an idea within her, and then her Taurus energy knows how to make it tangible and make it actually come to fruition. That is the beauty of Taurus, is the foundation. It's not just a pie in the sky idea. It's now, oh, let me get this together. Let me find a location. Let me find a place that feels good. Let me do, right? It's about the actual actions and the progress towards it. But Taurus is about progress. It's not fast success. It's not fast ascension. And Kelly Clarkson came up because, as Kelly Clarkson, she's still on The Voice. She actually has a lot of money. And I didn't know that at first. I haven't really followed her career. I do remember her American Idol days. I used to watch American Idol back then. And I haven't really followed her career, but I always liked when I heard a Kelly song, I liked it or whatever. But she recently got divorced from her husband. He was trying to take a lot of her money for alimony and child support, even though she's going to have primary custody. The reason why was because he was her manager. And when you are married and your partner is your manager, what happens is if you split and it's not amicable where you can resolve it yourself, what happens is the person can claim, wait, I now have no income. He already has managed other people though, but I think he dropped that person just to focus on her. I don't remember. I have to get the exact details. But she had a prenup. He was trying to challenge the prenup. At first, he was about to get a lot of money, and I just saw. So I'm glad I held off on this part of Astrology Explains It All until this week. I just saw that the judge basically threw out his contestment of the prenup. So the prenup still stands where she retains most of her money. I'm pretty sure within the prenup he's going to get something, but not as much as he would have gotten before. So with that said, when I heard about Kelly's multiple endeavors, I was like, I didn't know she did all this. What's her sign? And I saw Taurus, and I'm like, oh, Kandi also has a Taurus stellium. Now, as we can see with Kelly, it's more concentrated through the Sun, Moon, Mercury influence, right? Of some of her personal planets obviously being involved in this. Both women have the Taurus nature can be known with the voice. Taurus is known for the throat. So Venus and Taurus, for Kandi, in that regard, and then also Mercury and Taurus is this contributor for Kelly. But in general, Taurus can be known for that. And I think they just are really good examples of building up your brand, right? And anyone who's Taurus Sun, Moon, rising, if you're a Taurus midheaven even, maybe if you're a Taurus North Node, it's about resources. It's about building up, and then you're going to have your empire, right? Again, it's not about quick. Taurus wants to maintain what it has, and you can't maintain what it has if you aren't making the right decisions. And maybe people judge Taurus for waiting so long for something, but Taurus knows what is of value, and that's why Taurus energy waits. What else stands out here? Again, this is not a full chart reading where I'm going over their degrees and all that. What also stands out to me about Kandi, though, and her success is she's a moon in Capricorn. She doesn't play about her money. She's married as well to Todd, and they have some business together, but I know she has a prenup as well. Moon in Capricorn, whatever Kandi says she's going to do, she typically tends to do it. That's a very moon, because the moon gets emotional about its goals when it's when we put the moon in a earth sign, right? It now becomes, this is my project, this is my creation, I need to make sure that this happens. And so that sometimes this can be the indicator, like a moon in earth. Whatever it is that they truly want to work on, they're going to apply their emotions to it in that way. And you don't tend to see a lot of emotions in Kandi. Like she does, she's not an overly emotional person. She's a Mercury in Gemini, so she has an interesting way of speaking and talking, of course, and she says what comes to her mind. She's a first degree Mercury in Gemini. She says what's on her mind. She also has Mars in Leo, but that Mars in Leo helps tremendously as well, even though Leo and Taurus are square signs. Now, this is probably wouldn't be a direct square because those degrees are far apart, but either way, she also has that ability to create something that's going to be interesting, that people like, that people enjoy, right? With Kelly, bouncing back, I also think with Kelly, with her divorce, what I would sense is I think she is probably saddened and disappointed. Both of them have a considerable amount of retrograde energy in their birth charts, especially Kelly. And even though she's been successful, I think it's important for us to understand there may be certain aspects of her life that we don't know about, where she does feel that she's had to work very hard on, that she's had to do a lot of different things to focus on. One thing I would say, and again, I can say this, is because I'm someone that's also worked through weight, up and down, and losing and gaining and losing, and then going back to this and that. Like I can speak candidly about weight without judging people. She's had some issues with weight, before. Now this picture, she looks, like regular size, but and she's not been really big, but she, for Hollywood, she's been really candid about that. What you can typically see when you have Taurus energy, you can see kind of sometimes the feeding of needing to have something. Even with Kandi has not had any weight issues. A lot of people when they're younger are really, really thin, and she's like average size now. But Kandi, she has a restaurant, Venus and Taurus. She had 2 restaurants, I believe. So, you see what I'm saying? The theme of food with Taurus isn't always about weight, but for some people it can mean that. And also, anytime you see a lot of Sag energy in someone's chart, that also can represent weight. And needing to be careful. Now again, I don't know what house it's in for Kelly. And again, I'm not judging. I don't really care, right? I don't judge people based on like their looks and appearance and things like that. And she looks really good in this picture. So the point I'm trying to make as well with her chart is there are things that she's dealt with that even if someone's successful, there are still things they have to work through. And her parents got divorced when she was younger. I believe one parent got remarried. And as you can see here, we can start to see that with Pluto and Libra, especially the generation that is Pluto and Libra. And Stephen Forrest talks a lot about this in one of his books. He talks about Pluto and how the Pluto and Libra generation, people who grew up in that, started to see a lot more breaking up of families or breaking up of marriages. And just different attitudes towards partnership. Not only that, but she also has Saturn in Libra in retrograde, right? So I think a part of her is really disappointed because of her parents' divorce. I don't think she wanted this divorce, Also, Mars being in Libra, though, can make difficult issues within relationships. Passive-aggressive energy, whether it's the person themselves or attracting that in your life. So there are some indicators here that I can see without even doing a full chart interpretation of her having some issues in that regard. Even in Chiron and Taurus, of her knowing her own value even and needing to really build up her self-esteem is probably something, if you go to her old interviews, she's probably talked about that. Now, again, I don't have time to go over everything in these charts, in these placements, but with Kandi, also Saturn in Cancer, a lot of times I've seen Saturn in Cancer women have either become mothers young or had to mother someone very young or have issues around motherhood. Now, Kandi has, for everything we've seen, been a really great parent. She has 2 young children with Todd, but she has an older daughter who's in college, Riley, that if those of you watched The Real Housewives of Atlanta, you might have seen her kind of grow up a little bit on that show. Saturn Cancer, like, she was a single mom for a while. Her daughter's father for some periods of time was not in the picture. Again, if you watch the show, you'll see all of that. So sometimes Saturn and Cancer women have to kind of feel like they have to pick up a lot of the slack, I would guess you would say, of the other parent sometimes, you know. And the 28th degree makes that more pronounced for her, because in the degree system I use, some of y'all know what it is, this has a Cancer element to it. And both ladies they both have Pluto and Libra, which, you know, again, I spoke on that, and both have North Node and water signs, so that's interesting as well. Well, some things been going on. So some people may be aware and some people may not be aware that, hear a noise, it's my chair. Capricorn, well, that signs have, like, all countries have a sign. All countries have a zodiac sign based on their country of, their date of origin. For most countries, the origin is the day they declare their independence or the day they declare the name of their country, whatever the case may be. This first happened when I heard about what was going on in Afghanistan. Now, again, I'm not going to give you a whole history debrief. You can look that up. Yes, I know history. I know a lot about history, especially U.S.'s involvement in certain countries. I'm certified to teach history as well as English. I've always been into history, especially understanding the origins of things. Like, wait, if 2 countries have an issue, what happened? Like, I'm really inquisitive, but this is not a history lesson. So, you know, this is more so the astrology of it. So I do not want to get into the politics of this and that and all that. But the story is developing, but U.S. personnel have been evacuated, right, from the embassy there. What's happening, and I took this directly from CNN because I don't want to mix up any details when we talk about things like this. So yeah, the Afghan government is in talks with Taliban over the country's future as the militant groups surrounded the capital, Kabul, on Sunday after seizing control of every other major city across the country in just 2 weeks. This is a lot of intensity, and what got me thinking was, wow, what sign is this country? And it's in Capricorn. And then I looked up and I said, wait, what's going on with some of the other Capricorn countries? There are more than just this, but if you look, a lot of the Capricorn countries have had a lot of serious things going on lately. Haiti had that earthquake, 7.0, yeah. UK had a rare mass shooting. Like, I know in America, unfortunately, sadly, it is more common, but in the UK, it doesn't tend to be as common there. Mexico suing U.S. gun companies. It's a lot going on with Capricorn countries. And so what also got me thinking is, and these are not the only Capricorn countries, what also got me thinking is, well, America's a Cancer, right? In America's birth chart, America is a Sag rising, Cancer. All right. And so Aquarian moon. So I was like, that makes sense, because America does have dealings with different countries. And again, I know the politics behind all of these things. I'm not saying I know everything. That's not what I'm saying. You know, I know some things, but some people might know more things. But what I'm trying to say here is we do know that there's, America has, because of, you know, being seen as a world power in many regards by other countries, sometimes there has been this involvement where, and it's a weird dance where sometimes, like, people want help from America and sometimes they don't, and that's a whole different conversation. But sometimes America has inserted itself in certain countries, and people are like, well, you shouldn't have done that. And some people are like, well, wait, but if you're a country that has, you know, more stability, so to speak, you should be going to this country to help them. So it's always this weird dance with who wants help and who doesn't, and who should and who shouldn't. But think about Cancer as the symbolism of nurturing, concerning yourself with something, involving, or assuming something needs to be taken care of. I want to coin this. This is like the meddling, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful if you are a mother-in-law, no disrespect, because some mother-in-laws are great. The mother-in-law energy, right? It's America. The mother-in-law. Okay, she's going to come over, bring you some treats, bring you some stuff for the cabinets, but she might get too involved in what you're doing in your household, right? So think of it like that. And I think it was so interesting to see America's connection to these countries, even if you go back all the way back to, you know, historically, how America has this connection to all of these countries in some way. and that history behind it, and just seeing the fact that America is the opposite sign energy. America, the Cancer, the nurture, I'm going to come over and fix, or Capricorn energy, viewing it as okay, this is an energy that is controlling, or this is a country that is in some way not being as cooperative, right? And I think that's very interesting here. And again, I'm not saying that is the case. I'm saying this is how Capricorn opposition Cancer energy would work. So that could be a conversation for another time. I don't want this video to be too long, but I just thought somebody out there would find this interesting. Cuomo. Okay, so Cuomo stepped down, okay, admits the sexual harassment allegations against him, okay? And so with Cuomo, what's interesting is, he has to, either, at first I believe it was like this kind of idea of like him saying like he's not going to, he's not going to step down, but he eventually did, with not a lot of, probing. What I find interesting here with him is, one, I always find it interesting when people, like do something to mess up their reputation. It's strange to me when someone does that, because I'm always like, you've made it this far, and I do tend to see that it is, and you see this a lot with very prominent men, that there's something, and again, I don't know his Lilith sign, maybe that would give me some more indication here, that there's always some type of sabotaging of your own success. And why would that be? Where would we see this? Well, one, he has the Sun and Saturn. Sun and Saturn, being authority, having authority. So already the Sun conjunct Saturn, you're going to have authority. So he's already was going to be prominent, probably. But Sagittarius, as you know, sometimes doesn't have boundaries. It doesn't have limitations. Okay. Now, what made him really good in pursuits of his politics is, for sure, the Mercury in Capricorn. He knows how to walk the walk and talk the talk. He knows how to say the things that need to be said. The fifth degree, he has a charisma about how he speaks. People did like him as governor. Well, some people, and also but I always say this, and I'm allowed to say this because I'm a mutable moon and sun. You have to watch the mutable sun-moon combination. In particular, Sag and Gemini are opposite signs. He has difficulty dealing with impulse and the things that are in his mind. Now, I'm in no shape or form saying, oh, his astrology is why he touched somebody inappropriately, or his astrology is okay. No, or be disrespectful and saying, oh, it's your astrology. That's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to analyze why him. There's plenty of other governors that have not done this. Why him, based on this astrology? Mars and Scorpio can get really deep into like some deviant type of energy sometimes when it comes to sexual types and natures of things. Especially, he also has Neptune and Scorpio. So whatever imagination he has in his mind, he might want to act on that. Not only that, but, and again, there's benefits to some of the placements he has. I'm just talking about this particular situation. His Mars and Scorpio is why he's been so good in politics, why he was able to make it, especially with that 18th degree Scorpio. He doesn't just stay in the emotions. The 18th degree, he's very strategic in what he does, which is why it's like, as strategic as he is, as Mercury and Capricorn, as goal-oriented as his mind is, he still is influenced by these other presences, these other presence in his life of having to act on impulse and not having control over himself and being able to conduct himself around these women who allege this in a way that actually he can control himself, right? Now, what else stands out? Venus in Aquarius. Does he have Aquarius? It's Chiron in Aquarius. Okay. Well, Venus in Aquarius is 0 degree. That's almost from Capricorn. There could be, now when you see certain combinations, that's where you do get some layer of deviant practices. You start to see Capricorn, Aquarius, Scorpio in a chart together, and a person is alleged to do something. You could tend to see that that's where it could be. He does have most, and everyone's, listen, when it comes to his personal life, you are able to have that personal life. When your personal life or what you're doing impacts the comfort and the safety of another person, that's an issue, right? Like, even like someone said that this is kind of funny, that Cuomo has nipple piercings, right? Wait, the governor has nipple piercings? Well, that's at Venus in Aquarius. That's that Venus in Aquarius, that weird. He's into some weird stuff, probably undercover. Now, the thing about it is, though, you know, that's a very Mars and Scorpio thing, right? So it'll be interesting. I don't know what the rest of this chart looks like. Jupiter and Libra. He's seen and noticed for his connection to someone else, him and his brother Chris. They're both, like, people think of Cuomo, they think of both of them, right? So his connection to his brother and other people is something that he's benefited from, that energy. Now, again, I don't have time to go over this whole, even Uranus being in Leo, liking strange attention, okay, giving strange attention, not even, I think also what I was going to say with the Venus at the 0 degree, not reading social cues, right? He probably will say something like, oh, I didn't know that she was uncomfortable. I didn't know, or I didn't, you know, I have to read the whole thing. I didn't have time to read the whole thing. I just heard about him stepping down. I haven't heard what he said. Let me see how he came to, let me see real quick. Yep, sexually harassed multiple women, stepped down, okay. 11 women. That's that Saturn Aquarius energy. Listen, what did I say months and months and months ago in my Saturn Aquarius video? What did I say? I said anyone who has been harming a lot of people, karmic energy is coming in groups. People in groups are going to accuse people if you've been doing something wrong. I said that months and months ago. And you're starting to see this come up. That when a lot of people are getting in controversy, they've harmed the group, they've harmed the collective, or they've harmed multiple people. Now, again, and I know there's probably many things we could say positive about what he's done in New York, you know, so, but I have to look at this just from the lens of the social events of what just happened. This is just what just happened. If there's anything else that he's done positive for X, Y, and Z, again, we're not taking from that, but again, you cannot make anyone feel uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form. It's one thing if you make a comment, one, you marry, so that's all different. But if you make a comment to someone and you didn't realize it offended them, that's one thing. But 11 is a trend and it's a pattern, and that's just, you know, again, these still has to be the court hearings and the charges or whatever they're going to do with this information to move forward. He has not been officially charged, but this is something that has been alleged, and they have seen that there is some validity behind it, which is why he obviously stepped down. Okay, someone makes up something about you, you're not going to step down. So there we go. Nas. Okay, so Nas, now, not little Nas X, the original Nas, for those of us who grew up listening to hip-hop when Nas first came out. So we're talking about this Nas. Okay, now he came out with King's Disease too. He came out with the first King's Disease, they said, in 2020. So I was like, King's Disease, it's interesting. So what I noticed here was, I looked it up and I was like, oh, so King's Disease was a reference to gout, right? And so I was like, okay, it's a reference to gout. What, you know, gout is a form of, you know, it's when you get your body starts to not be able to process food the way that it needs to. It can lead to like some health issues, especially when it comes to, like, I've seen like the feet can get bloated, and the body, you know, it also could be a type of arthritis. So it used to be referred to back in many centuries ago, the rich man's disease, because these men were wealthy. And because they were so wealthy, they could dine on all the food they wanted. Whereas some of the people in their village or their town or whatever probably didn't have as much accessibility. So because these rich men would drink and drink wine and eat, they would get gout, is what they said. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so he's trying to say, you know, that's what he's trying to say there. Then I was like, wait, King, Leo. He put this out during Leo season, right? The sun is currently in Leo. That's King. That's royalty energy, right? Then Virgo rules health. Nas is a Virgo, and Mars is currently in Virgo. The album came out August 6th, I believe. King's Disease 2. So again, I don't know if some of these celebrities do work with astrologers. Some of them might not. Some of them might not care. But it's so interesting, the timing of things. It's not always, oh, you can only put an album out during your sun sign or during your or during a transit. That's not what I mean. It's a science to all of this. It's a science. It's an interpretation level to this, right? Now, even if Nas didn't know, oh, it's Leo season. Oh, it's Mars in Virgo. Nas still the energy around this means it's going to be received well. So for anyone who likes lyricism, rappers that can lyrically rap, it's a good album. I would listen to it. Well, you don't have to do anything, but it's yeah, I like it. And again, I've always been a Nas fan, and I don't know if it's the Virgo thing, but again, I liked the hip hop where it was lyrically made sense. Okay, yes, we know hip hop has always had some questionable lyrics in it, for sure. There's certain songs I won't even listen to, but I definitely, like, I need to be able to hear that you're intelligent enough to make that rhyme work. That's the type of hip hop that I grew up listening to, and that's the only thing I can really listen to now. Like, some stuff is like, all right, I can't. But anyway, the sun in Virgo, he's a Virgo, but he doesn't have much Virgo in his chart. This is why it would be a mistake for anyone to say, oh, he did that because he's a Virgo. He did that because he's a Virgo. Oh, that's a Virgo thing. He actually doesn't have much Virgo in his chart. He's actually all over the place. Interesting. I mean, the moon's in Aries, the Mercury's in Libra, the Venus is in Scorpio, the Mars is in Taurus. Okay, so his Mars and Venus are in opposition. Jupiter in Aquarius, Saturn in Cancer, Uranus. Wow. Wow. That Saturn in Cancer also can represent being a parent at a young age. I don't know how, he was pretty young when his first daughter was born. I just talked about Saturn in Cancer with Kandi, Burruss. This is what I'm talking about, though. You cannot pinpoint one behavior on the sun sign when a person is barely a Virgo. He is a last decan Virgo, y'all. Last decan Virgo. And I don't want to take away from his Virgo energy. Put that out there for the people who keep saying, the minute they hear someone did something, oh, that's because they're a Virgo. Oh, they did that because of that. Oh, they're a Virgo. Or they're a Scorpio. That's why they did that. Doesn't make sense. Like, I saw someone say something about Future. So Future is alleged to have 3 more kids on the way. He already has a lot. I don't really want to get involved in all that, but someone was like, oh, that's because he's a Scorpio man. And I'm like, I know, and I'm ahead. I'm like, I know a Scorpio man who has 2 kids, and he had, actually I know 2 Scorpio. I know. Well, let me back up. I know 1 Scorpio man, 2 kids, and he's remarried. That's it. I know another Scorpio man, 2 kids. You cannot say that sun sign is why someone has a lot of kids. You need to look at the chart. The house might tell you more. You know what I'm saying? The degree might tell you more. I get that people get excited over astrology, but a lot of people don't actually know what they're talking about. And they get hyped and they want to start making connections. But again, if you can't interpret things, you can't make those connections. Jupiter is also in Aquarius in retrograde right now. That fosters a really good time to also make this, to put this record out. Okay, Jupiter would have just gone back into Aquarius for about a week once this album came out. That's smart timing, that new energy, that let me get this out to the people energy. I have Jupiter in Aquarius retrograde too. Maybe I should put an album up. No, I'm joking. I don't. So this is what I want to say about Nas. Again, I might do more if we really want to go more. I do eventually want to talk about him and the infamous beef with Jay-Z, the Sagittarius. That's for people who know from back in that time. Okay, so let's move on. All right, actually that's it for this one. Okay, so thank you for listening to today's Astrology Explains It All. Again, I'm going to try to make this more frequent. Please hit the like button if you liked anything or you heard anything new.